Okay class, we're going to continue on with our Excel assignment. So this is the second video in a series of videos that will build up to what the Excel assignment is that you're going to turn in. So in this video we're going to go through and take where we left off and build a little pie chart that displays the fraction of expenses of your total monthly expenses. So we're going to use that last worksheet where you took your starting salary in Gainesville and broke it out into a monthly amount of money to work with, and then broke it out into different monthly expenses. So pick up where you left off, and now we're going to make a pie chart to show the spread of what you're spending each month and what categories. And we're not just going to take the data as it is, we're going to take the data and copy it and paste it in a special format that we can sort it to make it descending data of our most expensive item to our least expensive item. So I can show you how to go through and do the sort commands and the reasons why that is important if you need to sort data later on in industry or in your job. So what we're going to do is go through and make a pie chart, but in order to do that, we're going to just use the data that was the breakout of those individual items for your monthly expense. So to just use those items, we're going to copy it. And we're just going to copy those items that were those monthly expense items. So I'm going to highlight from the savings retirement down to this other items and over to highlight those dollar amounts. So I'm just holding down my mouse and highlighting those bits of data that are all those titles and those individual dollar amounts. I'm not highlighting that total monthly expenses, just all the other items. And after I highlight them, I'm going to copy them. So the one way to do it on my mouse is to right click and do copy. There's different ways to copy data in Excel, and that was in the lynda.com videos. And then I want to paste that data, but I want to paste it in a special manner. So you're going to do something called paste special. So I'm going to come over here up into this other cell, and I'm going to paste the data over here so I can manipulate it without accidentally messing up my original data. So sometimes if you want to manipulate data, it's good to copy it and paste it over and then mess with it somewhere else so you don't accidentally make errors and mess up the original data. So I'm coming over to just this cell, and I'm going to right click and do paste special. Don't just do paste special. And when I do paste special, I'm going to click this dot next to the word values. And the reason I'm doing this is over in our spreadsheet we had this savings retirement 10% after tax, and we had used a formula in that cell. We said equals 0.1 times my monthly income after taxes. Sometimes when you copy data and paste it somewhere else, if it had all these reference formulas in it, those formulas might start referencing different cells, and you can get erroneous data that way. So a very sure way just to copy something over clean you're going to use to make a graph is just to paste the values. It gets rid of those formulas within the cells and just takes whatever that final number was in a snapshot and pastes it over somewhere else. So I'm just going to paste special, click on values, and you'll see it just brought over the values of the words and the values of the numbers for me. So we're going to start from here in a values. So if I click on this first cell up here, instead of it being a formula, it's just a number now, and that's whatever that final number was within that formula when I copied it to then paste special. And I want to make these columns the right width to see my data. So one way to do that is you double click just to the right of the one you're going to change up here. So right between F and G, if I double click that, it'll make this the width of all these words in here. And then G over here, this column had already been set to dollars. If for some reason yours is not dollars, remember how we did it before to go through and set it to currency. So you can click on a dollar form to make it dollars if it wasn't there, just like we had done originally in the last video to make that dollars. So now I have my titles copied over and my dollar amounts copied over just as their values. There's no formulas in any of these cells. And I'm going to start with this to make a pie chart, but I don't want to chart it just like it is. And the reason is some of these titles are kind of long, and then these dollar amounts go from medium to big to small to medium again. And if you make a pie chart, you'll get these different sized wedges of the chart, and it won't be a very aesthetically pleasing item that you can look from your largest fraction down to your smallest fraction. We want to sort this data from our largest dollar amount down to our smallest dollar amount. So when we make a pie chart, we see the largest fraction down to the smallest fraction, and it's very pleasing to the eye if you're going to make this for a report or business report, that you can see what that biggest chunk of that money's being spent on, down to the littlest thing that, yeah, I might be able to cut my budget there, but it's not going to make a big impact because it's this tiny sliver in my budget. So we're going to sort this data from largest to smallest and clean up the titles a little. So I'm going to just talk through how to do that. So to clean up the titles, I'm going to shorten these one by one, just to something that might look better on a graph as a short title. So for example, savings retirement, I'm just going to get rid of that stuff in the parentheses. Rent is short, healthcare is short, car payment is short, cell phone is short, utilities, I'm just going to get rid of that parentheses stuff. So I click in there, just going through and deleting that extra stuff, hitting enter again. Groceries is short. This transportation one's a little long, so I'm going to just shorten that down to just transportation. Supplies, clothing, I'm just going to get rid of this etc. on there. Restaurants is short. Other fun stuff, we're just going to make fun stuff. Gotta have a budget for just fun stuff. Otherwise, it's no fun. Alright, fun stuff. Daycare, and then other items, I'm just going to change to other, but I'm going to make it a capital O instead of that lowercase thing with the goofy question marks, because that didn't quite look professional. So these are all now start with a capital letter. They're a short phrase, and they look similar. And like I did before, now I'm going to shorten this column again. I'm going to click right between F and G, so you'll see it changes to that line with the two arrows going to the side. And I'm going to make that width of that column back smaller, so it's just to the width of the words. So I have shorter titles now that'll look better in a pie chart, and then I have the dollar amounts. But now my dollar amounts aren't in descending order yet. See, we go from $362 up to $800, down to $100, up to $200. What I want to do is sort it from largest to smallest. And this is short enough. You could probably see what it is, but you are going to be working with larger amounts of data in industry, and you need to be able to sort data using this tool effectively. And the big things to look out for is that when you sort the data, the titles sort with it. So you need to collect both the titles and the data and use the sort tool so they stick together in the right titles with the right piece of data. So I'm going to show you how to do sort, and then we're going to use what we sort afterwards to make a pie chart. So to sort the data, I'm going to highlight all the data and the titles that I want. So I want these titles and these dollar amounts, and so they're highlighted, both the titles and the dollar amounts highlighted all at once, and then I'm going to sort this group of data. And so it was shown in different ways in the different lynda.com videos, but one way within the Mac is there's this A to Z button here that's the icon for sort. I'm going to click the little arrow next to it, and it says arrange data in ascending or descending order. I'm going to click this arrow, and I'm going to do a custom sort. And the reason I'm going to do a custom sort is if I chose ascending or descending right now, it would sort it based on the first or the leftmost group of items I have, and those are words. So it would sort it alphabetically by those words, not by my dollar amounts. So I'm going to do a custom sort to say, no, look at the dollar amounts. Sort this group by those dollar amounts. So I'm going to go down to custom sort, and I'm going to go through here and do my custom sort. So it's sort by, and I want to pick a column. So you want to highlight the column you want to pick. So column F were these words. I don't want to sort by column F because then it's looking at an order that's alphabetical. I'm going to highlight this to column G, and I want to sort those values, and I'm going to do mine largest to smallest. So you could do it smallest to largest. In this case, let's do it as a group from largest to smallest dollar amounts. So sort my data, look at column G for what I'm using to sort, and sort from largest to smallest, and say okay. And it moved the data, and it moved the titles with the data is the important part. So it moved this $800 up to the top because it was the largest thing, but because I had highlighted both things, it also moved this title of rent up with it. You want the title to stay with the data you're sorting. Otherwise, you're going to get them all confused and it won't match up anymore. So this went from largest dollar amount to smallest dollar amount and sorted these titles with it. So you need to go through and do this, copy it over, paste it special as values, clean up the titles, shorten them, and then make sure you're highlighting both sets of the words and the dollar amounts and sort that data from largest to smallest and make sure the titles sort with it. Now we're going to use this data to make a pie chart. So we're going to go to charts and we're going to get a pie chart. And we can just do a 2D pie chart. And we have a nice chart area, but we need our data for the chart. Move my chart area up here so you can see what I'm doing. And if you see this here, there's this select button. So change the chart data range. So what I want to do, I'm going to highlight this data. This is the data I want to put in my chart. So we could do it of one of two ways. We could highlight the data and then make the pie chart. But since I've already made this pie chart, I'm going to hit the select button. And I want to get the chart data that I'm going to use. So I'm going to highlight this little guy right next to here. It looks like a graph, and it's going to let me go over here and highlight the data I want to use in my chart. So I've highlighted that data. I'm going to click this icon to go back to it, and I'm going to say OK. And it's the beginning of what looks like a decent looking pie chart. So I've highlighted the data. Hit that select button, I highlighted the data, I went back into and said OK, in the menu it said, and it started what looks like a nice looking pie chart. But we're going to make a few changes, and the reason is I want to make sure everything is shown in my chart. So first check is we did that sort from largest dollar amount to smallest dollar amount in order to make the pie chart look like a beautiful visual flow from largest fraction down to smallest fraction. So first good check is to see if the pie chart looks like that. Let's look at it. So we have our biggest fraction, smaller, 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 down to our smallest fraction. And the reason it looks nice and clean like this and visually pleasing is because we sorted this data from largest to smallest. So that's a good first check of what you want to do. Make sure that that looks from the largest fraction down to the smallest fraction, because then you can see in a clean visual layout, I'm spending a lot of money here and a little money there. The next thing we want to do is look at this legend and make sure everything's covered. Well, it goes from rent down to healthcare, but it kind of cut off these last few things, and that's just a formatting issue. So we need to just move this title up a little bit. Then I'm going to pull this chart, this little legend thing down and make sure all my titles fit in there. Make sure you're not missing anything. So this goes through, and these are all the different titles of all the different items that were there. Now it had included those items in the picture of the pie chart. All those fractions were there. It's just the legend wasn't quite big enough. The span of it wasn't quite big enough to show all those titles. They were still all there. They're just kind of hiding down below. That's why I pulled that entity down to make sure they're all shown. That's an important step. I've got all my fractions, largest to smallest, and all my titles. One thing I want you guys to do is make sure the dollar amounts show on the graph too. So in order to do that, we're going to click over here. I'm going to right click on my pie itself and add data labels. So right click on the pie, I'm adding data labels, and that shows what the dollar amounts are. So I'm going to move this over to a clean looking portion in my spreadsheet. So don't leave it on top of other data. And I'll see, my video is probably over that little corner, so I'll move this up. I want you to move it up into a different portion of the Excel spreadsheet so it looks clean in what you're saving, and then make sure those items were covered. We're ascending from, we sorted from largest to smallest dollar amount, so you have largest to smallest fraction. The dollar amounts are labeled on the pie chart, and all the titles are here that you had included over here as those shorter, cleaned up titles that fit nicely on a chart. You know, the reason we shorten these items is so they look like nice short titles that if you were looking at this as a graph within in a report, it's nice and clean and short titles that look professional. And we're going from largest to smallest with dollar amounts clearly labeled. So this is the next video in the section of your Excel assignment. We're still going to have a couple more videos because we're going to do some other things with comparing and living in different cities that go back to that Venn diagram of happiness, of where you want to live and what you want to do. But this is showing you how to use the copy, the paste special of values, how to sort data in Excel, and how to make a clean looking budget chart for you to then be able to assess if you're living in a certain place, what your biggest fraction you're spending money on is, what your smallest fraction is, what those dollar amounts are. So if you do need to reassess your budget, you have something clear visually to look at and reference back to. Alright guys, there'll be a couple more videos after this one for the total Excel assignment, but this is the next step for you. Take care.